Leon III the Isaurian had angered Caliph Suleiman, and the latter decided to besiege Constantinople in 717. This was serious. Leon was a usurper, and now he faced the full might of the Umayyad Caliphate. If Suleiman took the city of Constantine, then the rest of the Roman Empire would shatter, and Christian Europe would be open to invasion from the Muslims too. Evidently, the siege was crucial to the survival of New Rome and Christianity, so luckily, our usurper Leon handled this sticky situation spectacularly. Yet despite his success, Leon would introduce a policy that caused devastating internal strife within the empire: iconoclasm. If you're confused, fear not, as today's Eastern Rome Summarized will explain all. Suleiman sent his brother, Maslamas, to lead the siege. The Arab army arrived in summer, but Leon had already evacuated the city, gathered men, and called on the Bulgars, whom Theodosius had allied with earlier. Still, Leon offered to pay the Arabs off as a peaceful solution, but Maslamas refused. His fleet arrived in fall, but the Roman navy was already prepared. Apparently, the Arabs learned nothing about fighting Romans on water after their first siege of Constantinople, and Roman ships equipped with deadly Greek fire incinerated the many Arabs and their ships. At night, while they were fleeing, Leon raised the naval chain, blocking entrance to the Golden Horn, making the traumatized Arab fleet almost irrelevant. The land army didn't fare much better, as the Bulgars came and inflicted heavy casualties on them. The Muslim army, now stuck between Romans and Bulgars, since the Theodosian were so impregnable so they could break into Constantinople and the Bulgars harassed the Arabs from the west, passed the unusually harsh winter of 717 in this terrible position. They weren't used to the cold and suffered badly from famine and disease, while the Romans chilled out in their capital with no shortage of food. Caliph Suleiman died, lowering Arab morale, but in spring 718 the new caliph sent reinforcements to his army. However, since the sailors who brought the supplies were Egyptian Christians who defected to Leon despite doctrinal differences, the Romans incinerated the Arab blockade with their vital intel, regaining access to the Black Sea, allowing Leon to send forces to Anatolia, who routed Arab reinforcements and killed them all. This news panicked the besieging army, and many tried to flee but were crushed by the Bulgars. Maslamas was ordered to surrender on August 15, but even then his broken army suffered hits while retreating. Muslim sources claim 150,000 of their men were lost in this volley, 80,000 being the modern estimate, not to mention the ships and sailors cooked by Greek fire. This humiliating defeat for the Umayyad Caliphate severely weakened them, and never again did Arabs try to take Constantinople. This triumph of the Romans brought them 7 centuries of life. Surely, this must mean all as well? Not for Leon. He thought the very fact that the Romans, whom he took to be God's new chosen people like the Israelites, faced such a threat was a sign of God's displeasure, so he tried to fix that. He wouldn't find a solution immediately, but he was quick to create his dynasty when his son Constantinos was born. Many call it the Isaurian dynasty because it was believed that Leon was Isaurian, but we now know he was Syrian. Still, we'll stick with that term. Leon the Syrian's position as the legitimate Roman emperor was secure and undisputed only once he put down the rebelling former emperor Anastasius II in 719. Leon focused on 2 things: restoration and reformation of the empire. His colleague could back him to the throne. Thus, Strigos of the Armenian Khan, Adavasdos, was made Comis of the Opsikion, returning discipline to the rowdy Thema that was involved in the deposition of at least 2 emperors. Leon replaced the Karavisiani corps with the Kivireuton, strengthened the military and navy considerably to push the disorderly caliphate out of Anatolia and launch raids into their territory. But the tables were soon turned, and Arab raids resumed intensely from 720 onwards. Major cities and fortresses like Talisandos, Gamachon, and Iconium fell from 721 to 725. This deeply troubled Leon and reinforced his idea that the Romans must have angered God. He tried to solve the problem by forcing baptism on Jews in 722, but that didn't work. His next attempt to appease God was through judiciary reforms. During the Heraclean age, the Romans were so occupied with foreign threats that law studies have declined. Leon modified and updated the Corpus Juris Civilis with new laws to enforce Christian morality, issuing the rectified handbook called the Ecloga in 726 in Greek. Yet nothing seemed to have been improved, because that summer a volcano erupted on the island of Thera, causing deadly tsunamis. We know it was just an unfortunate natural disaster, but Leon didn't. Drastic action was needed to regain God's favor. Leon and his advisors, after much discussion, decided that icons, beautifully painted pieces of wood with religious imagery, possibly evolved from old pagan portraits of the gods, were to blame for Rome's bad fortune. Icons were thought to perform miracles, so they were cherished and venerated by the Romans. But Leon and his iconoclast followers claimed that veneration of images was practically pagan idolatry, and that Muslim success was due to the rejection of such imagery, so icons were to be condemned. Iconoclasm began when Leon replaced an icon of Christ from the palace gates with a cross. The Pope, Monks, the populace and the famous John and Damascene fiercely opposed him. The Helots and the Exarchate of Ravenna revolted in 727, and while the mutiny was quickly put down, it took years for Leon to re-establish control in Italy. However, Venice, a huge player in later Roman history, will never be recovered. But an event that year could make us question Leon's dedication about removing icons. The Arabs, under Abdallah al-Battal, a Muslim hero, besieged but failed to take Nicaea, and was said that the failure was credited to a parade of icons. Why weren't those images destroyed? See, this video was hard to research for this reason. Iconoclasm was a key transition period in Roman history that forever tainted the reputation of Leon and his son, capable emperors during rough times, and our rare sources for this period were all written by iconophiles, so you'll have to bear with chronological gaps, bias, and inaccuracies. In 730, Patriarch Germanos abdicated due to Leon's iconoclast tendencies. The new pope, Gregory III, opposed iconoclasm, so Leon responded by separating the churches of southern Italy from Rome's jurisdiction in 731, and even sent a fleet to arrest the pope in 733, but like Justinian II's attempt, it failed. Like her noseless friend, young Konstantinos married the Khazar princess renamed Irene for an alliance against the Muslims, but in 737 the Khazars were beaten badly and converted to Islam. However, fortune gradually favored the Romans. After 3 years of constant Arab-Saxon raids, Leon and Konstantinos counterattacked. The Vasilevs destroyed a large Arab army at Akrinon in 740, killing prominent Umayyad commanders, including al-Battal, and halting Arab incursion into Anatolia for 3 decades. It was an impressive victory as it was the first pitched battle the Romans won against Arabs. The next year, Leon III died from dropsy on June 8th. He did spark one of the biggest controversies in Roman history, but he stabilized the empire during one of its darkest hours and deserves some credit. His reputation as a victor over the Arabs justified iconoclasm for many, especially the Anatolian army and his son Konstantinos, who went a tad too far. You see, the new Vasilevs broke not just icons but also iconophiles, earning the nickname Kapronimos, the dung-named. He played an active part in his father's reign and had legitimacy, but while he was campaigning in 742, Artavasdos usurped the throne with iconophile support while Constantinos led and rallied supporters in Amorion. The two fought in 743 and Leon's son won. Constantinos V regained his position and the usurper was blinded, but Artavasdos' betrayal and pro-icon policy made the young emperor deepen his hatred for icons. Konstantinos made an epic comeback like the renowned Metas, but didn't waste his second chance. He was an energetic and skilled leader, especially in his early reign. He reformed the military by breaking up the Erari of Sicyon, forming the Thema Optimaton and Bucilarion within it. He created the Tagmata, elite regiments of professional soldiers loyal to the emperor based in the capital. When the plague returned one last time, Constantinople depopulated from 745 to 747. Constantinos settled inhabitants of Greece to the city, boosting the Roman capital's demography and increasing its Hellenization. Meanwhile, the Umayyads went downhill after 740, and descendants of the prophet's uncle, the Abbasids, revolted. Constantinos exploited this chaos to campaign. In 746, he retook his father's hometown in Germanicea. In 747, the Kivireoton destroyed an Arab fleet and retook Cyprus. At last, the Romans were back on the offensive in the east, but things deteriorated in the west. In 751, the Lombards killed the last exarch of Ravenna, ending the exarchate. Only southern Italy stayed Roman, so the papacy turned to the Franks for help, becoming distant from New Rome. In 752, Constantinos captured Theodosiopolis and Melitene from the new Abbasid Caliphate. In 754, he was confident enough of himself and his iconoclast views to hold the Synod of Hierea. He condemned icons and iconophiles and would stick by these policies for the rest of his reign. Iconoclasm intensified, and serious persecutions took place later. Pope Stephen was too occupied with Frankish King Pepin to attend. Speaking of Pepin, he would subjugate the Lombards and cause Rome to leave East Roman control forever. Constantinos tried to be on good terms with the Franks, so the two exchanged many gifts. Now let's discuss the Bulgars. The Vasilevs had been resettling Christians from the cities they saved in Thrace to build fortifications and create a no-man's land on the eastern front. That annoyed the Bulgars. Their demand for tribute in 755 was refused, so they raided Thrace, but Constantinos drove them off and launched 9 campaigns against them. He crushed them at Markella in 756, and while he was in Thrace, tamed the Slavs as well in 758, but got crushed himself by the Bulgars at Rishki Pass in 759. But the Bulgar Khan failed to take advantage of the Roman defeat, leading to his overthrow by the new Khan Telets in 762, and the eventual comeback of Konstantinos. In 763, Telets raided the empire like mad, so the Vasilevs pursued him to Anchialos and scored a victory so glorious that he threw a triumph, while the Bulgars overthrew Telets and suffered political instability for years. For most of the 760s, the emperor dealt with domestic matters and iconophile opposition, earning his vile title. He condoned desecration of monasteries and severe punishments on people to suppress icon veneration and was a dick to monastics. Stories go that his opposers were blinded or executed, and he mocked those who appeared too pious. Some of his victims include Andreas Kallipides, Andreas of Crete, and Saint Stephanos the Younger. After his fleet was wrecked during a Bulgarian campaign in 765, he wasn't happy and entertained the populace by forcing monks and nuns to marry in the hippodrome to ridicule their vows of chastity. But this show didn't stop discontent from rising among high-ranking officials who plotted against Konstantinos. When the emperor found out, he purged his administration of traitors and appointed iconoclasts as his officers instead, like Michael Lachanadrakon as strategos of the Regision in 766. He would also force monks and nuns to marry like his master. Yet despite all this, Konstantinos was a great patron of secular art and renovations. The aqueduct of Valens was cut by Avars during the 626 Siege of Constantinople, and nobody repaired it until a drought hit the city in 766 and Konstantinos undertook this operation. He became so popular for fixing the aqueduct that a legend about him slaying a dragon arose. Konstantinos dealt with foreign powers in his final years, exchanging prisoners with Arabs, negotiating with Franks, and campaigning against Bulgars. In 768, Leon the Khazar, his eldest son, married the Athenian Irene Serantipikena. In 773, he was informed of the new Count Teleric's raid by his spies and crushed the Bulgars near Lithosauria. Sly Telerik tricked him into revealing those spies and killed them in 775. Furious, Konstantinos set out on a new campaign but sadly fell ill and soon died. He was an active and energetic emperor who played a crucial part in the empire's military recovery, but also misused that energy on persecuting iconophiles. Leon IV the Khazar, a nicer guy, succeeded him. He was the first proper Porphyrogenitus, child born in the porphyric chamber built by his father. At once, he secured the succession of his son Constantinos when he became emperor, for he had many half-brothers. He gained the support of the Roman people, and in 776 they took an oath to accept his young son as co-emperor. A scheme by his half-brothers was exposed, but they were pardoned. In 777, Count Telerik deserted to the Romans, so that left the Bulgars weak and disorganized. In 778, Leon set out on a massive, when I say massive, I mean massive campaign against the Arabs. All the eastern land Demata were assembled into a huge army of 100,000 men and attacked the opposite caliphate. Strategos Lachanadrakon crushed an Arab army near Germanicea, and the army went home with so much loot that Leon threw them a triumph. The Arabs retaliated in 779, invading Anatolia, but Leon's men repelled them with Fabian tactics. Leon was brilliant like his father, but a more moderate iconoclast. Still, when in 780 he found out that some of his officials and his wife Irene were secretly iconophiles, he punished the former and distanced from the latter. Shortly afterwards, Leon died, probably from his tuberculosis. Leon the Khazar was the first emperor since Mauritius to have lost no Roman territory at all, and he was in general a great leader. It's too bad he died so young. Now Konstantinos VI and his mother Irene ruled, or technically Irene ruled for the most part, first as her young son's regent, then on her own. Yet on the first year they encountered opposition from nobles who used Leon's half-brother's legitimacy as a front, but they were purged. Irene carefully put only her allies in power, but her governor of Sicily, Elpidius, revolted in the name of those half-brothers and deserted to the Abbasids after his defeat in 782. Then, Arabs invaded Anatolia under Harun al-Rashid, who might have been trapped had an Armenian general not defected. Irene was forced to pay for peace, angering the army. However, in 783, her favorite eunuch Stavrakis victoriously subdued the Slavs in Greece, so he got a triumph, and Irene felt confident enough to push for iconophile policies. In 784, she chose her Asycritis, Tarasius, as Patriarch of Constantinople and spent the next few years consolidating iconophile support while strengthening defenses in Thrace. As the empire, especially the army, was still iconoclast at the time, a council convened by Irene and Tarasius was disrupted by angry troops, and it took a year for the pair to organize a new one, the Seventh Ecumenical Council, Irene's greatest accomplishment. The papacy was still traumatized from the previous visit, so Irene sent the army on campaign and held the council in Nicaea. The Synod of Hierea was overturned and veneration of icons was restored. After 787, things didn't go so well, for Konstantinos reached adulthood and began squabbling for power with his mother. Previously, he had been promised to the Frankish princess Gertrude, but Irene broke off the engagement and chose Maria of Amnia as wife for her son. Like any 16-year-old being told what to do, Konstantinos was very bitter but accepted it anyway. Gertrude's father, King Carolus, attacked Roman holdings in Italy in 788, which Irene failed to stop, and another loss to the Bulgars in 789 caused her popularity to decrease while Konstantinos plotted to exile his mother with his iconoclast supporters, but that plot was discovered by Irene in 790. she jailed her son and demanded an oath of loyalty from the army. The Armenian Khan refused, prompting the others to also revolt, pressuring Irene into releasing Constantinos and confining her to the palace of Eleutherios. Constantinos VI was now the sole Roman emperor, but not for long. His incompetence quickly made him unpopular, being defeated in 791 by the Arabs and in 792 at Markelli by the Bulgars. The loyal Achanan fell in battle and he really needed support, so he made his mother co-ruler again, hoping to gain more iconophile followers. Now the army wasn't happy at all, so they schemed to put one of his uncles, Nikephoros, on the throne. In response, Constantinos mutilated all his uncles, making him look cruel and paranoid. The Armenian Khan revolted but was crushed by the Vasilevs in 793, while Arabs took advantage of this to raid in the east. The next year, Constantinos divorced Maria and married his mistress, causing the Mykian controversy, for back then, divorce was considered adultery, and his monk supporters were alienated from him. Constantinos was constantly losing support due to very bad judgment. Could he have been influenced by Irene? Maybe. In 795, he won the only military victory of his reign against the raiding Arabs, but it didn't help, as in 797, Harun al-Rashid invaded, and due to false info that the Arabs retreated, Constantinos returned to the capital without fighting, and it made him look terrible. Whether or not this was planned by Irene, her son's prestige was at an all-time low, so she decided to strike and seize power. Constantinos was caught, dragged to the porphyry chamber where he was born, and with his mother watching, blinded there and deposed. We don't know when he died, but from now, Leon the Isaurian's line was ended, and Irene became Vasilisa of the Romans through devious means. She didn't rule much better than her son. In 798, she bought expensive peace from Harun, again making the army displeased. She was unpopular among the Themata and had to spend a good portion of her rule trying to keep everyone happy and deal with the squabbling of her eunuch advisors Stavrakius and Aetius. It was impressive that she even stayed in power for 5 years. However, her downfall would come eventually due to the Franks. Now, with Constantinos deposed, Irene was acting as Emperor of Rome, and Pope Leo III did a little trolling and exploited this loophole. According to the West, since women have no right to rule, then the throne of Roman Emperor was technically vacant, and it is the Pope's duty to appoint a male emperor. And who better than the Frankish king to assume this position? On Christmas Day 800, Carolus Magnus was crowned Imperator Romanorum by the Pope, becoming the first Holy Roman Emperor. What did the Romans think? Consider this from their perspective. The Pope of Rome, the Pontiff, gave the title of Roman Emperor to a barbarian when he has no right to do so and when there is already a Vasilisaton Romeum, no matter how unpopular she is. That's plain usurpation right there, and the Romans did not regard Carolus as Imperator Romanorum, nor would they accept to be ruled by him. When he proposed to marry Irene, that became a possibility, and coupled with her existing unpopularity, the Romans had enough. In 802, the Logothete Nikephoros deposed Irene and exiled her to Lesbos, where she soon died. Irene and Konstantinos were rather incompetent compared to their predecessors, and their military and political failures probably delayed the eventual resurgence of Roman power and culture, but their power squabble rather than the two of them was more to blame. If Irene wasn't so power-hungry and Konstantinos rebellious, their shared rule could have worked out much better. Just my 2 cents. And that was the end of the Isaurian dynasty. I feel like I must address the important issue of East-West divide during this period. Leon's iconoclasm very much worsened the existing differences between East and West. I mean, the eastern provinces were the fervent supporters of iconoclasm, while the western provinces along with the papacy were defenders of icon veneration. Plus, Leon, a Syrian from Umayyad territory, initiated iconoclasm, while Irene, an Athenian from the European side of the empire, ended it. Anyway, this division would cause the Christian hegemony to end and the West to split spiritually from the East as well. The Holy Roman Empire often tried to suppress the Roman identity of the true Romans from 800 onwards, and those in the East, in response, emphasized that identity much more eagerly in the following centuries. This divide will also cause the Great Schism and the 1204 Siege of Constantinople. I just find this very important in the history of Eastern Rome, so I think I needed to emphasize it. Nikephoros, the Logothete, became emperor, and he would prove capable until a disastrous accident ruined everything he worked for and gave rise to the second iconoclasm. But that's for the next time. For now, thank you all for waiting such a long time for Eastern Rome Samurai Season 2. As always, feel free to like, subscribe, and comment if you have questions or corrections to make. See you all soon.